starting in
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hi, this is Veronica.
And I'm Studio Steve.
We are the Pod Sound School.
And this is PodBitz. PodBitz is a quick and easy way to digest the latest news and events in podcasting.
Learn about actionable tips to podcast like a beast.
Listen to our podcast recommendations.
And be in the know with what is up in the PSS community.
And we do it all live.
While the clock is ticking.
Unedited.
And raw.
So get those ears ready.
Crank those speakers up.
And let's dive in. Hey everyone, welcome to another PodBitz. We are Studio Steve and Veronica here to entertain you with your weekly podcasting bits.
Hello everybody, for those who are just tuning in, we record PodBitz live on Twitter and YouTube every Wednesday around noon. We post this episode on our podcast later today, and then we post the live video on our Facebook page, Pod Sound School, and on our YouTube channel for replay if you missed it.
Yes, so make sure to come check us out live, and you can always see us on YouTube, but we're live here. It's a 13-minute segment, and we'll answer questions afterwards. Mm-hmm. So what's been going on in the PSS community this week, Veronica?
So last weekend, we presented at the Independent Podcasters Virtual Conference. Mm-hmm. Joe Pardo organized this fabulous event, and it was cool. Just so much fun to see people being part of this event and helping him out, and also raising money for the CDC. Mm-hmm. Great cause. And here's how we deal with the anxiety and stress these kinds of events bring to our lives.
Yes.
We're fairly new to this kind of events.
Yeah, to public speaking or giving presentations.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we've done it in the past in different settings, but it's the first time that we do it in this capacity as, educators and podcast coaches.
Yeah.
So we just thought it would be fun to tell you how we deal with this.
Yes.
So, Steven, he likes to have all the technical stuff figured out, understandable. But the problem is that he comes up with ideas that requires him to make unnecessary trips to the office store, and why not stop by the grocery store on his way back to the house.
Well, I needed some pu'er tea. Veronica.
Like 2 hours before his presentation.
Veronica carefully puts every single word on her slides, making them look like a novel. So she calculates and controls every second of her presentations, leaving no rooms for mistakes.
English is my second language. I just want to make sure that I'm including the big words there. Steven, he yells at the kids and lectures them about internet bandwidth. He does it while running fast pace, opening every single cover and trying to find who knows what. It's scary, and we all jump out of the way like in a movie.
They should jump out of the way, okay? I'm having technical issues, and they're trying to stream Netflix. Okay. Veronica pulls at her hair manically, like some kind of crazed demon, and types cancellation messages into her text, which she never sends, but she types cancellation messages to the event organizers saying that she can't do the presentation due to some rare illness.
Well, thankfully, we have each other to balance each other out. We give each other encouragement, and we look into each other's eyes and reassure that everything is going to be okay.
And let's get to our first segment.
This Week in Podcasting.
So, this week in podcasting, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, so registration opens in 2 days for the Smart and Sexy Podcast Launch.
Yes.
Steven and I put this course together to help you launch a professionally sounding podcast with a strong branding and social media presence. Steven and I will be teaching the course. We're super excited about it. And if you've been following us for a while, if you've been watching our videos, listening to our podcast, you know that we're going to make it fun.
Yeah, it's going to be very fun, but also very informative. We're really looking forward to it. It's a 6-week course. It holds you accountable while also providing, PDFs and the supports, the supplemental support documents as well. So definitely you can come get on the wait list for that. And if you do, you'll get 10% off of the course.
Yeah, pretty exciting.
And so you make sure to do that before April 3rd.
And it's a course that is going to have the duality of Steven teaching what he knows best, and I'm going to be teaching what I know best, which is branding and social media presence and planning and doing all those fun things. Another article I found this morning I found it. Forbes published this article yesterday, and the name of the article is Protect Your Mental Health by Podcasting with Friends. The article talks about how under the current circumstances, people are turning to social media to stay connected and informed. However, this can be detrimental for our mental health when we incessantly scroll down our social media feeds and getting loaded with negative news. The article suggests why not to start a podcast to stay connected with your family and friends. And it says that podcasting is a way to get together with our loved ones and with our friends, and at the same time providing entertainment and value. And if you are a storyteller, then this way of podcasting can be very, very fun.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, it sounds pretty awesome.
So for me in This Week in Podcasting, you may have heard, and I'm actually curious to see if anybody has the same thing going on, if you've noticed a change in your downloads. But there's people saying that the podcast downloads are not performing as well, right? And there was actually the Podcast Business Journal put out an article that was saying that according to Chartable, that they has started declining over, and I'm hearing multiple audio, so excuse my stuttering. There we go. Okay. So Chartable says that all of the podcast downloads are down about 30% in religion, spirituality, and arts, TV and film, and sports. But there's, according to this other article by Neiman Lab, although some podcast listens are down, not all of them are down. Fiction podcasts are up 20%. Business podcasts are up 10%. Science is up. And kids and family podcasts have taken a big boom as well. And also, advertisers and marketing campaigns are not pulling out any of their money from podcasting. So really, there's not a lot to worry as far as the podcast industry is concerned with all of this. In fact, it seems that there are more interest in looking into marketing on the podcasting platforms because of COVID-19 and all the changes that have been happening there.
Yeah, another thing that I forgot to mention on my article too is the article says that utilizing technology in productive ways may relieve some of the emotional burden during this time of heightened stress through storytelling. And we tried it yesterday. With our friends using Anchor.
Yeah, and it was pretty fun. Okay, so why don't we do This Week in Your Queue?
Yes.
Okay. So this week in your queue, I've got the Tennis Podcast, which is a favorite podcast of mine. They're friends, and we're always talking to Nick and Brandon, and they host the Tennis. And in the wake of the COVID-19 crisis, they remind you that there have been worse pandemics in recorded history. So if you haven't listened to Tennis Podcasts, they challenge each other with a top 10 list every episode, and it's very fun. And they rank the deadliest pandemic outbreaks in human history.
They have a very interesting style.
Yes, very interesting humor.
They're super funny. My suggestion is a Cinemondo podcast. Kathy, Mark, and Burke, they're the host of Cinemondo, and they work in the entertainment industry. This is I've listened to different podcasts about movie reviews, and this one is just my favorite. They give on their last episode, they give suggestions for what to watch and how to stay sane during strange times. That's how they describe it. It's the first episode they record remotely due to the current quarantine. So go listen. They have very interesting suggestions for which movies you should be watching.
Yeah, and they have
very,
really fun
very
personalities.
Different. They have very fun personalities, and because they're in the industry, like their recommendations are very good.
Yep. So let's go to the
Tip of the week.
week.
Brought to you by me. Okay, so everybody knows that I'm an Instagram geek. I like Instagram as my favorite platform. I think it's the best platform to showcase your podcast and your brand and services. And here are a few tips if you are starting with Instagram, or if you've been on Instagram and hasn't seen the results of being on Instagram.
That you'd like to see
that
followers,
you like to see
and things
followers
like
and things like that. So if after doing market research you discover that your people are on Instagram, here are some of the things that you can do. Some people ask, should I use my personal account or should I create a new account for my podcast? And it depends. In our case, we created a different account for our business because we're a business and we have different things going on. We have a blog, we have YouTube videos, we have our podcast, and we do different things with the community. So we needed that account apart from my personal account. If it's just your podcast, then what I suggest, and this is coming from, I interviewed Natasha from Soul Studio Marketing, and she's an Instagram expert, that you should create a hashtag for your podcast. And what it does is that everything you post on your feed, your Instagram feed, if you add that hashtag, then it will post automatically on that hashtag. And that way you don't have to manage two accounts at the same time, which can be really time consuming. And yeah.
That's pretty cool. So up your Instagram game.
Yes.
Get your own hashtag. Was there anything you missed with Instagram?
Yeah, well, just make sure that you have your brand book ready before you jump into Instagram. Your colors, your fonts, your brand statements, and your objectives, your brand objectives. Objectives. That's a hard word.
That is a hard word.
And post regularly and engage.
Yes. And that does it for another episode of PodBitz.
Yes.
So if you haven't rated our podcast, make sure you go and do that at ratethispodcast.com/podsoundschool. And go check out our waitlist over on podcastingsmart.com to see if you're interested in our Smart and Sexy podcast launch.
Yeah.
And it's always fun. This was especially a loose one for us, and that's part of the fun of it, right? Is that we make mistakes.
Sometimes
and,
all a school
we'll
needs
catch you
is a
next
little
time,
You
guys.
do, I don't.
Oh, yeah, you're good.
Laboratories functionally designed for the student use. The new miracle of modern tools for instruction.